Today, we're going to talk about setting up a holding company from scratch. So the first part of this video, what is a holding company? What is the purpose of a holding company? You will see a bunch of information here on the YouTubes that would somehow dissuade you from setting up a holding company, setting up a management company. There are even videos up there talking about why you shouldn't have an LLC. Be sure you pay attention to the end, because I'm going to give you some bona fide stated facts why you should have a holding company and why you should have an LLC. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what is the intent and the purpose of a holding company. Number one, a holding company, which could be an LLC, it can be a C corporation, it can be a partnership, and there's a way to do a holding company with a trust, but that's a little bit more complicated. But essentially, you set up the holding company first. You set up the holding company, you get an EIN number, and you get your business checking, and you create an operating agreement for your holding company. This is the first thing you do. One of the things I consistently get is people who have established LLCs, and it's like, hey, I got this established LLC, I haven't done anything with it. Could that be my holding company? Sometimes that could be your holding company, sometimes it can't be. But here's what I like to do. I like to start the thing off fresh. So even if you have an LLC that you made 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you managed to keep paying the fees, and you haven't done anything with it, was that LLC set up correctly? Was the operating agreement, was the NAS code set up correctly? And 99% of the time, it's going to be a no. So my recommendations is for you to start a brand new holding company. And this is a big reason. I had a friend many years ago, and he had a company, which was a trucking company. And, I told him not to do this. I told him don't do this. So he goes ahead and he turns that trucking company into his holding company, okay? And then he go ahead and set up, I think, 3 operating companies. Well, guess what? 2 years after he does this, the trucking company gets sued, which now means the trucking company, which is now the holding company, is open to a lawsuit, and all of the assets that come under the holding company are also open to the lawsuit. If he had listened to me, and it was a very nasty, very nasty lawsuit, because when it was a trucking company, one of his trucks was in an accident, and it took them 2 years to come to suit. And I told him, don't do this. And it was a really nasty lawsuit that literally completely wiped my friend out. He had to file bankruptcy. Now, if you go ahead and listen to me, because this is United States of America. You know what the United States of America is about? The United States of America is a paperwork game. If your paperwork is in order, if your sequence is in order, you're very much protected. If he had listened to me and started a completely separate holding company, then only that trucking company would have been part of the lawsuit. And there's so many ways that you can handle if you have a holding company, and I'll go ahead and just tell you how you could have handled that. Now, once again, dealing with the law, you have to be very specific and you have to be really strategic. So let's go ahead and say his holding company was set up that wasn't the trucking company. He completed a new holding company, and then his trucking company got sued. Now, you have to be really careful when you're part of a lawsuit. Now, if you're served and you answer the service, anything you do with the company could be considered malfeasance, because you've been served and you're doing constructive things to set yourself up. But once again, if he had a holding company, this is what he could have did. He could have went ahead, started a new company, and started a new authority and moved the trucks and stuff over there. Left this company open. You want to start a business, you want to set up a holding company, an an operating company, you want to get yourself some business credit, you want to learn how to run a business, you want to start your first online business. If you want to do that, and congratulations to you for being a person that wants more out of life, for being that person that's ready to sit down, do the work so your future can be brighter. I got something for you. Go below and enter into the Corporate Citizen Playbook, where we teach you all of that plus a lot more. Because you are not a normal, regular person. You want more out of life. You want to do more, you want to be more, you want to have more. And congratulations to you. So this link is below. Go ahead and check out this video, and then go ahead and enroll in the Corporate Citizen Playbook, where I teach you some things that you cannot Google. Can't Google it. Can't Google it at all. But this company's not doing any business. This company's not making any money, but the company's still open, and it will answer the lawsuit. So he's moved all of the assets, all of the employees over to a new company. And he did this before he answered the service. Because see, once you answer the service, this is really key, because the things you do, but anything that's done before you answer service, you're just doing business. But anything that's done after service is answered, and service is when someone knocks on your door, hands you the paperwork to say you've been served and you have 30 days to answer your service, or they can get a judgment verdict against you for not answering the service. There's so many things you can do with a holding company and with trucking. And once again, I would advise, if you have a trucking company, to set up a shadow company, a holding company, a shadow operating company. So in case something funky happens with your trucking company, you can just transfer the assets as a lateral transfer and keep trucking. And only the company that is sued is open to the lawsuit. Because if he had listened to me, because to this day, we still talk about this, he would have had an operating company and he would have had a holding company, and all his other operating companies would have not been part of the lawsuit. It got really, really bad. So once again, this is not an area that you want to be cheap and lazy. Go ahead, set up your holding company correctly with the proper NASDAQ code, EIN, operating agreement, and that's the first part. Now, I get this all of the time. I already have companies that's up and running. You should sell those operating companies that are up and running to the new holding company. Because once again, this is not an area that you want to be cheap and lazy, because maybe you have a company that's been around for years and there's no danger of a lawsuit, and maybe you could turn that into your holding company. But I got a question. To set up a holding company and to set up operating companies is extremely cheap. It's extremely cheap. So why even take the chance? So you want to set up a brand new holding company. And like, I had many people who would listen to me and they go out and they set up these multiple LLCs, and they don't do it correctly, because this is why you set up the holding company first. The holding company becomes the organizer of the operating companies. So the holding company must be already formed. It must already have an EIN, ideally business checking accounts. This is all stuff that we go over in the Corporate Citizen Playbook, links below. And you must do all that correctly, because if you don't do it correctly, you can leave yourself open to all types of nasty consequences. Maybe you have a company that's up and running, you're paying taxes. There's a time where you go ahead and sell that company to the new holding company. But if you got taxes, you've got payroll, like, let me give you an example. Let's say you have a company that's up and running, you have employees, you have business credit. There's a proper time and place when you want to sell that operating company to the holding company, especially if that operating company is an S Corp. You can only have one S Corp, and corporations cannot own S Corps. Only human beings can own S Corps. So there's a certain way you have to do it, because once again, we live in the United States of America. America is a paperwork game, and if you have your paperwork properly set up, This opens up so many doors for you. So go ahead, form a new holding company, sell all of the existing operating companies to this new holding company. And there's a way to do this that's correct and proper. And that's the beginning of setting up a holding company. And once again, I like to start off with a new holding company because this way the new holding company is set up correctly and it's a management company. And this is the beauty of setting up a holding company. A holding company never does business with anyone. I've had people say, well, I want to use no, your holding company doesn't do business with anyone. No one. It doesn't do this. It doesn't own real estate. It doesn't do anything. The holding company, and I want you to think the story of Pinocchio and Geppetto. Geppetto is the holding company and Pinocchio is the operating company. But Geppetto is controlling the operating company. So you set this up correctly. You always set up additional operating companies to go ahead and do the work. The holding company, its job is management and to collect money. That's what a holding company does. A holding company does not do business with anyone, and to prepare a holding company long term, you don't ever want to be in the position where you've done business and something sneaky can happen to you. All right, so that's the way that you set up a holding company from scratch. Brand new holding company, brand new EIN, and business checking and an operating agreement. And then once the holding company is set up, then you use that holding company to set up the subsidiaries or the child corporations. So what you will do is if you want to form an operating company, which would be considered a child corporation, you would have that holding company be the organizer for that child corporation, which means the holding company must exist first. Okay? So the holding company exists, the holding company is set up, and the holding company is doing the things that they need to do to go ahead and organize themselves. Now, once again, there's a ton of videos on YouTube talking about why you shouldn't set up an LLC and you shouldn't set up a holding company. I'm going to share my thoughts with these videos. First of all, when you set up a holding company, that states from day one that you're going to start more than one business. You're not going to start like 3 or 4 businesses all at once. That would be madness. That would be crazy. But you know that you're going to start 1 company, 2 companies, 3 companies. Now, let me go ahead and tell you the beauty of setting up a holding company. Once you set up your holding company and your first operating company and you set up the pay structure, this makes it tremendously easy to open up additional companies and to take the pay into your system, because essentially the operating companies push up money into the holding company as a dividend, and then you could just pay yourself whatever you want to. It's incredibly easy because you have the holding company, you have the operating company, and you have the payment system. And ideally, you want to go ahead and set yourself up as an S Corp once you start making money. Let me be really clear. You don't want to go ahead and set yourself up as an S Corp before you start making money, because part of setting up an S Corp is you got to start paying yourself a salary. If there's no money, how can you pay yourself a salary? How can you do that? So that's one of the important things that you have to do. So once that is set up, now I'm going to say something and I'm going to be as courteous as I can. I feel that the people who are putting up these videos talking about you don't need an LLC, you don't need a holding company, I feel that these people do not understand the operations of the United States of America. I'm about to tell you why you want to set up your holding companies and to set up your operating companies, set that up in a certain sequence. Number 1, you want to set it up because properly set up operating companies, like let me give you an example. You go to the bank, you apply for a business credit card, and then you apply for a line of credit. They're gonna ask you, number one, how old is your company? If it's not 2 years old, you're not gonna be eligible for a line of credit. And then two, they're gonna ask you, how much money does your company make? And you can get a line of credit, typically 10% of your gross income. So if you made $1 million, you could get $100,000 line of credit off of stated income with PNC Bank. You can't do it with Truist anymore. You used to be able to get $50,000 with Truist. Now Truist is asking, if you ask for $50,000, Truist is going to ask you for tax documents. So with PNC, you can still do it. I believe you can still do it with Fifth Third, but there's a process. You must go ahead, set up the business checking account and season it for about 3 months before you can go for the line of credit. And I do believe you can get the business credit card pretty quickly. Once again, if your LLC is 2 years old, because banks right now, we're looking at going into a recession and banks are tightening up. They're changing their programs. They're changing their lending guidelines. So you have to be careful. I'll give you an example. I've set up not one, but 2 accounts with PNC. The first time I got the business credit card, line of credit, pretty simple. This time I got a phone call for the credit card. They want to verify my information. So banks are getting to be more scrutinous, and there's a law on the books, know your customer. So banks are getting very, very finicky about knowing who you are, verifying, because I had to answer a phone call, and then they looked at stuff on my credit report to verify that it was me before they would issue out that credit card. I haven't heard anything about the line of credit, but we will see. I'm gonna wait, check my mail, because it goes to my business address. And this is something else that I should bring up. You wanna have a business address where you want to, because this is part of the documentation. They want to know where you live and they want to know where you run your business. And typically there needs to be separation. And I have an office that I use for the car business because I needed the parking lot. So I still have that office. So that's my business address. And that's where all of my stuff is going. That's where my business credit cards go. That's where my business lines of credit go. All of that stuff goes to that office. Now, here's something that's funny. If you go ahead and open up business credit with American Express, American Express will send the business credit card to your home address because you already have an open account with them. So once again, I don't just report on this stuff. I'm actually doing this, and this is why I can give you bona fide information about what these lenders are doing for you to go ahead and get robust business credit. And once your holding company is set up, and once your operating companies are set up, in the Corporate Citizen Playbook, I teach you a method to get massive business credit. I'm talking crazy levels of business credit, but number one, you have to set this stuff up correctly. You cannot just finesse it or put it together. You have to set this stuff up correctly. So one of the things that's going to happen is with you setting these things up correctly, with you putting these things together in an organized manner and setting yourself up for future success. Because like I said, there's a number of people on the internet who are putting out information talking about you don't need an LLC, you don't need a holding company, and much kudos to those people, but I don't think they understand the United States of America where we live, because the United States of America is a corporation. And for you to act American, you need to be corporate. You need to have your LLCs. You need to have your holding companies. You need to have your EINs. You need to have your business checking and your business banking, and you get your business credit, because this opens up a massive door. This opens up so much opportunity for you to live that high life. It is staggering. It is just staggering, because if you go ahead and set up your holding company, set up your operating companies the correct way, then you will set yourself up to have massive business credit and money for your operations. At the moment, I have $550,000 with American Express. Now, that's credit. This is my Delta Sky Miles cards. and my American Express Platinum and my American Express Golds. I have multiple Platinums, I have multiple Golds, and they have something that's called pay over time limit. So my pay over time, the actual credit that I have with American Express is $550,000. That's more than enough money for me to virtually do anything I want to do in a business world. If I wanted to bleed off the money off my credit cards, I could go out and buy a piece of property, but that would be stupid because, once again, using business credit, you got something that's called interest and capital on tap. I have a capital on tap. Capital on Tap just raised their interest rate to 30-something%. Guess which credit card I am not using? Capital on Tap is a little crazy with that. But once again, once you set this stuff up and you set it up correctly, you set yourself up to enter into the 1%, which is 5 million. Once again, getting rich is 250,000, and getting wealthy is having income producing assets of $5 million. And this sets up that cycle because, once again, can you get rich through real estate? Yes, you can. Takes a long, long time. Can you get rich with stocks? Yes, you can. Takes a long, long time. Can you get rich with a business? Yes, you can become a millionaire with a business in 3 to 5 years. I would say 3 to 7, depending on what you're doing. That's incredibly fast for you to become wealthy. So that's it. Those are the tickets. And for those of you who want to enter onto the pathway of wealth, go below, get into the Corporate Citizen Playbook. We have a one-time payment and we have a payment plan for you to get in so you can learn these seasoned business skills so you can prepare yourself to become wealthy. My name is Glendon Cameron. I will see you guys in the next one.